be heading to table number C in our feature match area. Sky Mason there on the left side of your screen versus Michael Biron Boissonneau. Hopefully I'm not butchering that too poorly for any of our French speakers out there. I've got to say, though, being here in Montreal, it's awesome. Everybody speaks French, and there's, you know, dual language signs everywhere. I get really excited about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a cool part of the world.
10th District Guard is the first play of the game here for Michael.
Looks to me like there was a mulligan for Michael.
Yes.
He's got one too few cards.
Ooh.
There's the Night Vale Sprite. So you were asking to see some Demir, and we've got a good Demir start on the left side of our screen already.
Michael's going to chip in for 2 damage here, and that Sprite, though, if left uncontested, like we were talking about, it's just a 1-2, but that Surveil every single turn is so good. Well, Rock Charger here from Michael. We might be seeing 3 colors from Sky.
Yep, is it Guildgate shuffled to the front of his hand there? So he can certainly attack his Sprite into the Rock Charger. The worst thing that can happen is the creatures bounce off each other and he gets a Surveil. But if he can follow it up with something like a Deadweight, he might even be able to kill off the Rock Charger.
All right, so Night Vale Sprite getting in, and there's a Surveil from Sky Mason. And he likes it. It's going to leave it on top.
Here comes Burglar Rat. Good way to punish an opponent who took a mulligan.
Oh, yeah. Is that a Crushing Canopy?
Yeah, so wow, we saw 2 copies of Crushing Canopy the last game we watched. That was a post-board game, but Michael actually opting to main deck Crushing Canopy, which, for the same reasons we discussed Collar the Culprit, just a card that's going to be more able to find a target in sealed deck. Everyone's going to be playing their bomb rares, which often have flying. You're going to see all the capture spheres and luminous bonds that people open in their decks. So Crushing Canopy, a card that's, I think, quite reasonable to main deck in sealed.
Rock Charger and the 10th District Guard getting in for 3. Hunted Witness was a follow-up play for Michael as well. Just a little 1-1 for 1 that leaves a 1-1 behind after it's been successfully hunted. Another Scry off the attack here from the Sprite. That, once again, Sky's going to leave it on top, and that's something you never like to see if you're Michael. Getting in for 1 as well here. Hired Poisoner, the follow-up. 1-1 with Death Touch.
Another reason I'm a big fan of the Rock Charger is it's a great way to circumvent those ground Death Touch creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. Hired Poisoner, Ocaran Assassin. Pitiless Gorgon.
Yep.
I have a question. Are you ever just like, you've taken a mulligan, you already feel pretty bad, but are you tempted to use your Luminous Bonds on something like a Night Vale Sprite?
Yeah, that's, I think, a very fair consideration, because you got to think that the Night Vale Sprite is going to dig to more threats, and if you don't see yourself winning the game in short order, that's a huge advantage to accumulate over the course of the game. I mean, imagine you play a 10-turn game where Sky Mason gets to surveil every single turn. You know he's never going to draw too many lands. He's going to find exactly the cards he needs. He's going to fill his graveyard. So I don't think it's out of the question to spend even a very strong removal spell on a Night Vale Sprite.
Speaking of finding good cards, Deadly Visit here on the Rock Charger from Sky Mason, and we're seeing him surveil 2.
This is a huge play, Maria, because you see the Rosevale Centaur coming down on Boissonneau's side, and that is now completely brick-walled by Hired Poisoner now that the Rock Charger is off the battlefield. So a huge change to the board state here. Sky Mason allowing his ground creatures to now be at their full effectiveness and really putting Michael in a tough spot.
All right, once again, surveilling both cards to the top of his library for Sky Mason here. Stuck on 3 lands, make that 4 for Boissonneau. And that Hired Poisoner doing a great job, as you said, of holding back the team. Luminous Bonds is going to have to be used on that 1-1.
That's even one step more extreme than what we were talking about a moment ago, using it on the Night Vale Sprite. But I think you said it. Michael figures, I took a mulligan. My opponent's got a good draw. I'm kind of losing this game, and I need this Centaur to be able to attack if I'm going to win. That's my plan, and I'm going to put my resources behind that plan.
A Blood Operative here from Sky Mason, which is a nice card.
This is a card that's quite impressed me. 3 mana for a 3/1 lifelink, and it can be rebought when it goes to the graveyard each and every time you surveil. So in a Dimir deck, like what Sky Mason appears to have, this is effectively an unkillable creature with lifelink. So either a very annoying brick wall for something like the Rose Mane Centaur, or a potent threat that the opponent's going to have to spend potentially multiple removal spells on.
Yeah, so we're just going to get in with the 10th District Guard here, and oh, no, the Centaur is attacking as well, I imagine, the Vigilance. But yeah, like that Blood Operative can just block infinite.
Yeah, so just at face value here, Sky Mason can trade off the Blood Operative and attack with Night Veil Sprite next turn. So even with no spells in his hand, he can kill one of the opponent's creatures and gain 3 life for his troubles. I mean, granted, you have to pay 3 life to trigger Blood Operative's ability from the graveyard, but
he just gained it right there.
Yeah, and the point being, this is a card that just allows you to keep the wheels turning and still have action, gas in the tank, even without casting spells sometimes.
And here we see Night Veil Sprite getting in. There's a Surveil. Step number 1.
So Mason's going to resolve the Surveil and then decide about the Blood Operative.
Pay the 3 life, put it back into hand. And the interesting thing too about Blood Operative, I'm not sure if he did this initially. Ooh, Righteous Blow taking down the Sprite is something that Michael really needed there. Is that when it enters the battlefield, you can exile cards from a graveyard.
Yeah, that extra line of text, I don't think I've ever seen someone remember that.
I was
in real life. When I play with it on Magic Online, I cast it, I say go, and I'm like, oh, what? There's this trigger on the stack. So, you know, having the reminder on Magic Online is helpful, but that's definitely not what you think about when you think of Blood Operative, but it's a nice effect when you factor in Jumpstart cards and Undergrowth.
And there's that Gargoyle we were talking about a little bit earlier, Gatekeeper Gargoyle, entering with 2+1/+1 counters based on the number of gates that Skies controls.
Yeah, so in Sealed deck, you're never going to turn down a big flyer at almost any mana cost, but in Sky Mason's deck, it's looking extra strong since he is dipping into 3 colors, playing those Guild Gates, and it's great on this board, even being able to hold off the ground creatures.
Yeah, nice 5/5 flyer for 6. Dimir Informant here giving Sky Mason a scry, and as a result, Blood Operative coming back to the table.
So the one bit of good news for Michael is that he was able to take down the Sprite. So, I mean, it's a long way back, but it's a start, because you got to figure from this position where you're losing, you need, number 1, Sky Mason to not draw additional strong cards off the top of his library.
I think I saw a Trotta.
I think he just drew an additional strong card off top of his library. But also you need the Blood Operative to stay dead if it ever trades off.
There she is, a Trotta the Silencer. Oh, this has got to be my favorite card of the set, Reed. Just the flavor is so perfect.
Yeah, so this is an assassin. It's unblockable, and whenever it deals combat damage to the opponent, you're going to exile one of their creatures and reshuffle a Trotta into your library. So this is a super powerful card. I mean, good stats just at face value, 3/5 creature. That's a good blocker. But the fact that it kills your opponent's best creature and is unblockable makes it extremely powerful.
And with Surveil as well, there's a good chance he'll find her again.
That's right.
I had a friend actually win the other night off of the ability, if you've got 3 creatures with hit counters on them in exile, you win the game.
Wow.
And I was like, achievement unlocked, man.
Yeah, I have a friend who's an aficionado of alternative win conditions, always looking to build constructed decks with, like, Approach of the Second Sun or a Trotta the Silencer, any way that you can win without dealing your opponent 20 damage is
It's
fun.
so cool. Well, Michael has seen quite enough, thank you very much. And game number 1 goes to Sky Mason there. Hopefully a better draw for Michael.
Still early in the day, but I have to say, the 4 sealed decks that we've seen in action so far, Sky Mason's is the most impressive. He's got a high concentration of premium cards, seems to have a nice mana base, and just a well put together package here.
Pass while adept on Mason's side of the table. 1/3 can give something unblockable for 3. Blade Instructor for Michael. And there's that Blood Operative coming down once again.
Oh, and a Blood Operative this early.
Yeah.
If I'm a player who's trying to attack and push damage through on the ground, particularly with small creatures, that is the nightmare situation. I would really hope to answer it with the Luminous Bonds or something like that. We'll see what Michael can put together.
All right, Hunted Witness, play number 1. Then we've got the 10th District Guard and a pass of the turn. Back over to Sky.
I would actually have to say the story of this round 1 for me here is the little ground creatures being really ineffective. Just getting brick walled quickly, and the players that can continue turning their wheels with either evasive threats or activated abilities or spells that draw additional cards, seed additional cards. Those are the players that are winning the games, and the people that are playing out their hands early and being unable to attack through something like a Wishcoin Crab.
Right.
They're the people that are struggling.
Oh, and here is a big kick to the gut. Devious Cover-Up takes care of Flight of Equinox that was convoked out from Michael.
Right, so this is what the Selesnya deck wants. I'm not trying to bash cheap plays because it is important to have your early creatures to come down and facilitate Convoke and give you some board presence. But then when your big payoff card is met with an answer, you're left with creatures that can't really do much in the face of a Blood Agent, a Blood Operative.
And there's a Wishcoin Crab, speaking of here, and just a wall put up from Sky Mason.
Wishcoin Crab, not a card that I expected to be an MVP this weekend, but it's doing good work so far. It seems to be a major role player just holding the ground for these slower, more powerful late-game blue decks.
And there's Healer's Hawk from Michael. And you know what? This is kind of like something that we've got to think about for Selesnya too, because you need cards like Healer's Hawk in your deck to be able to convoke out your spells like Flight of Equinox, Rosemane Centaur, but then you draw them late and look, you've got to...
That's true, although we'll see if Boissonot can somehow make the Healer's Hawk a little bit more than that. For example, he does have the Blade Instructor, which can mentor onto it if he could have some kind of aura or pump my team type of effect. The difference between a 1/1 Healer's Hawk and a 3/3 Healer's Hawk can be quite large.
All right, we're going to make that Blood Operative unblockable, get in for 3 life-linking damage. Sky Mason bumps up to 26.
Boy, that's a nice combo there, too.
Yeah. Michael, Biron, Boissonot down to 14. And there, just as you mentioned, we're going to mentor onto the Healer's Hawk to gain a couple of life.
Wow, is this just sending the Blade Instructor to its death? Just trading in for 1 counter on the Healer's Hawk? I like the play. I mean, if that's what you got to do, that might be the biggest effect that the Blade Instructor can have on this game right now. I always like when players are looking for unusual value plays like that, asking themselves, what's the most value I can extract from this card that's otherwise not doing much? So even though it looked like a poor exchange for Michael, I do appreciate that he is trying to look for corner case situations like that and make the most of his cards.
Especially now, once now he has access to lifelink and Sky Mason doesn't anymore, as Luminous Bonds takes care of that Blood Operative.
Yeah, and look at this, Maria. I mean, the Healer's Hawk, okay, it looks like Sky's going to have the answer, but if his draw had stagnated a little bit and he didn't have much going on other than those ground creatures, sure, a 2/2 Healer's Hawk, that can let you win the race. That can let you attack through and actually make something happen.
There's a Rosemane Centaur for Michael. Land off the top for Sky Mason. Enhanced Surveillance in hand?
Wow.
Okay, this is going deep on Surveil. What do you think about that, Reed?
Well, I need some convincing. That's the type of card that I would try to avoid in my sealed deck, and what it indicates to me is that Sky Mason has an extremely focused deck with a lot of Surveil. I don't think that's a card you want to play if you have 4 or 5 cards that Surveil in your deck.
Sure.
But if you have 8 or 9, then maybe it starts to become interesting. And we did see the Night Veil Sprite, which is an amazing pairing with Enhanced Surveillance. And sometimes the games do go long enough in this format in sealed deck that you could use the reshuffle ability. So I guess that's my official position is
Sure.
I'll have to be convinced, but there are some situations where it might be really, really powerful.
Righteous Blow here takes down the Wishcoin Crab after a block on the Rosemane Centaur from Michael.
Pretty interesting attack there. He was sending the 4/4 Centaur into both a 2/5 Wishcoin Crab and the 1/1 Death Touch hired Poisoner. And I suppose if Mason had blocked the Poisoner, he would have Righteous Blowed that one. But
Sure.
looks like his play instead is to finish off the Wishcoin Crab.
All right, Etrada the Silencer hits the table once again after attack from the Darkblade Agent. Michael down to 11. And that Centaur might look like it's got a hit taken out on it pretty soon here, but there's also a Rock Charger.
And actually Enhanced Surveillance with Etrada is a nice combo. You mentioned refinding it after you shuffle due to all your surveil, and you can do that at a triple the rate with Enhanced Surveillance.
Sky Mason kind of counting out the mana and seeing how many resources he wants to devote into getting damage in this turn. Etrada going to attack unblocked, of course, because she can't be. Sends Michael down to 8. And it's going to be the Rock Charger that gets exiled. Not too worried about the Centaur with hired Poisoner on the table.
Yeah, we see the Dimir deck just doing exactly what it wants, finding the right tool for the right job, hired Poisoner to hold the ground, stuff like Etrada and flying creatures to force through, a little bit of surveil here and there to make sure it finds what it needs. But
all right, we're going to make a 4/4 flyer on that Gargoyle thanks to the one gate in play.
Actually, Maria, I think that might be a Steam Vents.
Oh,
Sky Mason didn't reach for a counter.
You're right.
The
all right, value.
More expensive, and in this point, at this stage, actually weaker blue-red land.
That's funny. And there's Enhanced Surveillance. So what that means is Sky gets to surveil an extra 2 every time he surveils. And here's Dimir Informant. So we're going to see this in action, surveil 4. And there's Etrada.
Perfect. Everything. You love it when a plan comes together like this.
Man, I love Dimir Informant.
Another card he is looking at is Crawl Swarm, which is a 4/1 flying that you can rebuy from your graveyard by discarding a creature card. And he sends that to the graveyard because he figures he can always pick it back up when he needs it.
Yeah. Okay, in for 3. Michael will fall to 5. Crawl Swarm has proven to be very annoying or very good, depending on where you're at. Just a recursive 4-power flying threat. A little slow, but District Guide here from Michael. Pick up a Celestia Guildgate.
For a moment, my best hope for Michael's chances was that he was going to find an off-color land and unlock some kind of crazy rare in his hand, but no, just another Celestia Guildgate.
Yeah, as you said, some real power in Mason's deck. Okay, so we're going to make our Darkblade Agent unblockable. And there is a handshake. Sky Mason takes down this match 2-0 here in round 1 of Grand Prix Montreal. All right, what are your takeaways from that game, Reed?
Well, I mentioned it a moment ago, the weaker ground creatures, the grizzly bear type guys, not so effective in those 2 matches that we saw, but in both cases it was the blue deck that had more access to card filtering and a little bit stronger late game flying creatures. Those are the decks that seem to be performing best.
All right, well, we've got more Magic coming up in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.